All right, Shalom. This is Hara 1 by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Harakak Kodash, Ma'amah. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders, and Shalom to Akim and Akwatim, the children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. And Shalom to the Akim here at Lions Den. This lesson is going to be titled The Melting Pot Theory. All right, the melting pot theory. Now, matter of fact, let me get this real quick. Let's get the term theory. Let's start with that. All right, theory. Get the etymology. It says here, theory. From the root meaning to contemplation, speculation, or spectator. All right, so, and it says, comes from the root word theory, derives from the Greek theroin, which means to look at. All right. So, just how they, a view, a point of view, like a theory. All right. Comes from the root word theater. All right. A theater, or stage. And that's what America is. It's the melting pot stage. All right. Or theater. Just like you had a European theater, you have different theaters for war. This third dimension is like a theater, especially America being Babylon, a theater for the Lord. All right, from the root word theos, which goes back to the to God, right? Now here you go. It says theos, which means God, right? But it also can go to, which have thea, or where is it at? Theory, theoria, sheesh, like a stage, right? So this is the theater, right? America is a stage, okay? For what? For Esau to what they call the New World. All right, in ancient times, in the 1400s, going over to the 1500s, with what's her name? That whorish woman, Queen Isabella. I think her name was Isabella, and then you had King Ferdinand II. All right, and that was around the 1470s, all the way to the 1570s or something, where she was ruling over, I think, Spain. And they sent out conquest people like Columbus to go out and look for the Native American Indians, which were known at that time as Israelites. All right, it's in books written dealing with Christopher Columbus that he used the Apocrypha to find the Native Americans over here, the children of Israel. All right, second Ezra, I think it's 13. Now, matter of fact, we may get that real quick, because this is the melting pot. All right, now let's read the theory first. Now it says here, because America became a new place for economic, for their new economic system, because their economy was failing over there. All right, lack of resources. All right, lack of riches. So they sent out voyagers, people like Henry the Explorer, wasn't it Henry the Explorer, something like that, something the Explorer. People like Christopher Columbus, people like Amerigo Vespucci, all these people were sent out, and And at that time, they had something for any Edomites that wanted to come over here from Europe and just find a new world and start a new life. And then, then later on, you had something called the Wild Wild West. That's when they was like, there's gold in them hills. They was digging for gold everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So they said, if you can find it, you'll be rich. You can have it, you'll be rich. Just pay your taxes or whatever to Spain. Over to Europe, I mean, in general. So, with that being said, you have something called the melting pot theory now, today. It says melting pot theory. All right? It says America, China, Irish, Italian, Mexican, Russian. You got all the nations here. All the nations want to come over here to the, let me get this real quick. They wanted to come over here to the melting pot for that American dream. Right? They wanted to come over here to the, it says Isaiah 14 and 4. That thou shalt take up this proverb. See, it's a proverb, mystery. Against the king of Babylon. See that America is the king of the president. That seat represents the king of Babylon. All right, today America is the modern day Babylon. There were 3 Babylons. There was ancient Babylon, then you had Great Babylon, and the daughter of Babylon today. It says, and say, how have the oppressor ceased? See, America is the oppressor. What did the slaves call this place? Call the rulers of this place. They called them Massa, which means oppressor. This is the oppressing country that put us in slavery, man. Started the slave trade, or helped to forward the slave trade. All right, and gave reason for the slave trade. They wanted to build a new economic system over here in a new world, and they needed slaves to build it. They tried it with the Native Americans, but they destroyed them so much, and the Native Americans were always fighting back. So they went over to what is that? Portugal, where the first slave house was at. I forget what it is, man. Was it Portugal? That was the first slave house, slave plantation. Not plantation, but slave warehouse. First warehouse. All right. And matter of fact, let me show some stuff. All right. I think it was called Lagos, something like that. But yeah, this is where it all started. When after the slave trade really got kicked off, they tried to shut it down because a lot of nations couldn't take care of the slaves. They didn't have a lot. It took more resources for the economy to take care of the slaves and feed them and then clean up after them. And then also they had sicknesses and shit like that. But then you also had a lot of nations that were just against it, So they stopped the slave trade. But then around the 1400s, around 1488, and around that time, just the 1400s, man, after the Renaissance, the rebirth of the Roman Empire, you have, what was his name, Pope Innocent? His name was Pope Innocent the 4th, I think, or the 8th, Pope Innocent the 8th. And he took in 100 slaves from the Catholic Church. All right, and he took them all in according to their color, that they were dark skinned, and that's what started the race trade. And they created a system called racism that would continue on, and a religious contention against Israel, called a religious system with Rome through the Catholic Church. All right, and they set that up to always be against the true Jews, the Israelites. So now they started the slave trade, which kicked off. They seen they could make money for it. That was a new way to make money. Another way to make money, because the slave trade was already gone. So next thing you know, Queen Isabella, she wanted to, what do you call that? Vassal. What's a vassal? All right, so Queen Isabella, she heard about the Native Americans over here, and at that time, a lot of the Gadites, they weren't killing each other. The Seminole Indians, the Seminole tribes, the Reuben, they weren't killing, they weren't enslaving each other. They would just, if they went to a battle, they would slaughter each other. But they mostly weren't taking each other into slavery. All right, or either that, they would be at peace with each other. But then Queen Isabella, she wanted to make the Native Americans, the Gadites, and Reuben, she wanted to make them vassals of Europe. I think Spain. And the word vassal, the etymology goes back to servant. So she wanted to make them servants. All right. So they came over here, started enslaving them. The Gadites. And then when it didn't work, they took some of them back over to Europe so they could train them. And then later on, they said, yo, let's go ahead and build up this new world, start America, this bitter ass place. And they went over there and got the southern tribe, which is Negroes. Went and brought them. They said, yeah, they strong. They like bucks, and they could take the slavery. So that's why we went into slavery over here. They went and got us, brought us over here, and had us do the building. And the Gadites, they pushed them into reservations. All right, took over their lands. So yeah, this is wow, slave dynasty over in Europe, Portugal. All right, the Portuguese slave trade in early modern Japan. See that? So yeah, it was a slave port. It says here, Portuguese town opens window to its slave trade history. See, that was a tunnel they used to take us through. All right. Tourists walk through a tunnel at the medieval area castle of Lagos, Portugal. A striking Portuguese beach town of coastlines and sandstone cliffs. Lagos is the birthplace of the African slave trade in Europe. See, that's what I was saying. A museum dedicated to slavery is helping this enclave in the heart of southern Portugal's Algarve region come to terms with its history. Now they're gonna come to terms with it, all right? All right, so they brought us over here. Then you had them Edomites building this place, setting it up, establishing their whole slave system, bringing together the 13 colonies, right? Bringing over their religions and their ideologies and their damn German roaches and pigs and pork. They came over here, and during the war with the Mexicans, the Mexican War that went on with Esau and the Mexicans and the Seminole tribes, we had soldiers like John Horse. You can look him up, John Horse. Somebody will do a lesson on him. You had the pigs that Esau brought over here, and they smelled so bad that when those Gadites would see those giant pirate ships, that's what they was, pirates, saw them coming over here to the shores, the Gadites started shooting fish bones at their once they reached the shores, they would try to unload their horses, and a lot of the horses, they ran up into Utah, all right, in New Mexico during the war. And after the war, the Mexican War, a lot of those horses were still out there, and the Mexicans didn't want to kill the horses, so they decided to learn to ride the horses. That's why you have so many wild Mustangs out there in the mountains. All right, a lot of them they just let run wild. But then you also have pigs. They brought over pigs because they were like fungus. They multiplied quick, and they didn't need much to feed them. You feed them anything, and Esau's a pig anyway, so bottom feeder eating another bottom feeder. All right, so they had that. They brought the pig over here, let that wild in the loose in the wilderness out here, and it became later a wild hog. Grew extra horns and all that weird shit. that you see them wild hogs wearing, the warthogs and wild hogs having today. All right. And also they brought what? Death and sickness. So today with their economy, you had something called the melting pot theory, to where they tried to build this mirage of American dream. You can come over here and have the pursuit of happiness, and anybody's welcome. Melting pot theory. It says, according to the melting pot theory, peoples from various cultures come to America and contribute aspects of their culture to create a new unique American culture. Sound like the Tower of Babel. The result is that contributions from many cultures are indistinguishable from one another and are effectively melted together. Oh, they're gonna melt, all right. The Lord said He's gonna leave them here and melt them. The jakes that's following behind these different ideologies. This type of society are typical for the first stage of settling. All right, that's where you get that mindset of nationalism. All right, I'm gonna do a lesson on that. Yahweh Ratazah next. Nationalism. All right, that's when people are, I'm a proud American. You know, I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm this. I'm that. I'm black. I'm African. You know, becoming nationalists of things that don't really exist. Just because you're born in a place, that don't mean you're from that place. All right, thus we became Gentiles, scattered around the world, as the Lord said, but we're still Israelites by the seed. All right, so that's why the Lord said, come out of her, my people, man, mentally. Be not partakers with them. All right, so this is a melting pot. Now let's get that. This is Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. See, that wine's been given into their hand. Their philosophies, their business, their toxicity, right? That they build with these nations through business. He is a proud man. Okay, they became proud over the Edomites. Neither keepeth at home, right? They sent their military all over the world, right? Just like locusts. Who enlargeth his desire as hell, man. See, anywhere Esau sets their desires over here in the New World, what they call the New World from the Old World, which was known as Europe and ancient Israel, and all those lands over there. That's the Old World. So in the New World, they brought what? This became hell, man. For who? The children of Israel and these other nations. All right, when the wicked are in power, the people, they mourn. So it became hell. And is as death, man. See, they are like death itself. Is always consuming, never full. All right, the grave is never full. That's what Esau is, man. Seeking whom they may devour. And cannot be satisfied. See that? Just like the grave. But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. How did they do that? How did the European elites do that? Heap unto themselves all people and control them? By building this place called America. All right, by building on this land and calling it America. Calling it a United States, giving it a president, giving it a false image of a mirage of an actual country or a people, when it's really a place for the oppressors to oppress and to create slaves, establish slaves with the birth certificates, all right, with the taxation, with the government, with the Democrat, Republican. Give people 2 doors to go through to make their complaints to the top heads, and the top heads really have no power on both ends. So both hands are two ends of the same monster or beast. Democrat, Republic, two wings of the same bird. All right, Roman Empire, America. So yeah, man, this place has, Esau has heaped unto themselves all people through America, through the dollar as well. All right. All right, so I'm gonna read this real quick, man. I wasn't planning to, but I'll go through it real quick. Second Ezra 13 and 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, right? The multitude are the Israelites that are going to come out of this place, America, and around the world, being gathered to the Lord. All right. He's going to gather them first through the Spirit, and then with his angels, and they're going to bring the elect to Yahushua. It says what? Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea the king. That was Hosea, the king of Ephraim at that time. All right. Whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And when did they do that? That was around 725 BC, all the way up until about 720, really 722. All right, that's when Hosea, they killed Hosea around 720 with Sargon II. He finished it off. Salmanassar V migrated us into Assyria. Sargon II actually, you know, it told us to take on their customs, and they had some of their people learning our ways as well. You know, and that goes into the Samaritan woman at the well. So now, it says here, Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar V, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and that happened at around 725 or so BC. And it takes you up to 722 when they finished it, and I think they killed Hosea around that time, took him captive, I think. And then 720 they came in and took the land. All right. Samaria, which was the capital for Ephraim. And he carried them over the waters. See, he carried them into Assyria, not into America yet. And so came they into another land, okay? Into another land. We went to another land called Assyria. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And that's that further country is America, all right? Babylon. That they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land, right? That's why you have things like the Los Lunas stone, the Seminole Back Creek stone, you know, that was Paleo-Hebrew written on the stones out here in America, in Jersey. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow place of the river, okay? And that's where you have called a Middle Passage. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. All right, so that happened later. And some historians say it happened around 300 AD. And it's also written in history that Ephraim was the tribe that led them over here. All right. And I think they started off in the Black Sea. So somebody else can do some research on it. It says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely 1.5 years. And that's how long it took coming over here to the Americas. All right. And the same region is called what? Arsarif. Arsarif, I think it just means another land, something like that. All right. Arsarif is America. Right. That word Arsarif just means mysterious location. Arsarif means another land. All right. So that's what it is, man. It's in the Hebrew, it represents another land. And that's what we came to. We came to another land called America. All right. Then dwelt they there until the latter time. See, they still here, and we're still here. And now, when they shall begin to come, right? So the Native Americans were over here. Esau came over here, tried to enslave them, and it wasn't fully working. So they had to go back and get the so-called Negroes from Portugal and different areas in the western coast of Africa, and brought us over here. It says, then dwelt they there until the latter time, right? The northern tribes. And now, when they shall begin to come, who is that? The southern tribe. The highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. All right. So that's all Israel. We were over here pressed together. All right. This is Jeremiah 50 and 33. It says here, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All right, in this land of oppression. That's what we came over here for slavery. That's what the Lord said. All right. And all that took them captives held them fast, and they refused to let them go. You see that? So they refused to let us go from this place. And even to today, they want to bring in a new world order. All right. In this new world that they started, try to build. The Lord said they shall build, but he shall throw down. All right. So they still refuse to let us go from this place. They set up more ways to keep us in slavery, more ways to keep us in sin, slipping pork into everything. All right. Killing our people, making money off our people, profit, fraud, with the dollar and birth certificate. In the ghettos, concentrated, like a concentration camp called ghettos, which is another word for the word Egypt. Okay? So that's what America is. Let's get another scripture. All right, the perfect scripture to go to when you're thinking in the mindset of the melting pot theory, where all the nations were brought together. Matter of fact, this is Revelation 17 and 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth, the whore is America, are peoples and nations and multitude. The waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, man. All right. So there was the waters sitting upon many waters. All right, so that's America, Babylon. Okay, so, all right, real quick, Revelations 12 and 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, all right, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. I'm talking about Israel, okay? Israelites. They're the servant, the woman, to Yahushua. And the sun and the moon represents knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that was given to the Israelites only. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth. So it was time for us to be delivered. And we cried in travail in the Roman Empire. We needed deliverance. We needed our king. All right. And pained to be delivered, right? We wanted to be delivered by our Father, just like a woman has contractions, and you could tell it's her time to be delivered. So the Lord set it up through Yahushua, and now we're gonna be delivered physically from ancient Babylon, all right, out of captivity, out of travail. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, that's talking about the Roman Empire, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads, and really representing Herod, being the who was it? He was basically a nobody, and he worked his way up into the Roman Empire. All right, and the Roman Empire set him up over Judah or Judea. So he wanted to be the king. So he wanted to kill our king, Yahushua. When he heard that there was a king being born in Israel, that's when he wanted to kill the firstborn of our people. All right, so having 7 heads, 10 horns, the 10 common markets of Rome, and 7 crowns upon his head. All right, which later on became what? NATO. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Now, third part represents the southern tribe, but also the third part represents a group of Israelites that followed after the Roman Empire, which would be people like the wicked scribes and Pharisees, and a lot of jakes that followed after the Roman Empire and their customs, and that sold out for filthy lucre. It says what? And did cast them to the earth, meaning brought them low. All right, so we were lifted up, and they brought us down. All right. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as he was born, man. They wanted to kill Yahushua. They wanted to kill our deliverance, man. Our deliverer, as soon as he was born. And she brought forth a man child. All right, so Yahushua came from his own. He was an Israelite from the tribe of Judah, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. So he's the one that's going to rule with harsh rulership, no respect of persons. All right. And he's going to rule with a rod of iron in the kingdom. And her child was caught up unto Yahweh and to his throne. All right, so when Yahushua went to the heavens, to Yahweh on the right hand of the Father, and us, he told us what? We were going to flee into the Judean hills in 70 AD. The prince of this world was coming, talking about Vespasian and Titus and Vespasian, or Vespasian and Titus. All right, the Vespasian dynasty. You know, and then from there we have Domitian. You know. And we went and we fled into the western coast of Africa and different places of Egypt, Syria, all over the world. And that's when this happened. And the woman fled into the wilderness, see, the western coast of Africa, all over. That's where we were scattered at. That's why they call us Africans, you know. That's why you can go anywhere and you'll find some Israelites. Where she had a place prepared of Yahweh. See, Yahweh prepared that place called America, called Babylon, daughter of Babylon. And he had it prepared by Esau. He had Esau go over there and set the preparations to set up our prison on this planet. All right. The Lord used Esau as a sword. It says, where she had a place prepared of Yahweh. And that's what we went to another land called Arsareth, or America, you know, or that bitter land. That they should feed her there 1,203 days, which would be like years, 350 years, all up until the point of Albert Bivens waking up to the truth around the 60s and 70s. All right. So now let's read about how Esau was used to prepare this place called Babylon as a punishment for our sins. And the Lord was going to use this place to melt and to do his sifting in that pot, that melting pot. Start the sifting here. That's why the apostles are in New York. That's the home base. All right. And it's spread out around the 4 corners of the earth from there through the internet. All right. Zechariah 5:1. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. Uh, Actually, let me get to the point. I want to do another lesson on that. Here you go, verse 5. Then the angel that talked with me went forth and said unto me, Lift up now thine eyes, and see what is this that goeth forth. All right. So this was a parable. Okay. And I said, What is it? And he said, basically a metaphor. This is an ephah that goeth forth, and the ephah is like a Hebrew measure. All right. A pot that you would use to measure grains and such. And the Lord said he was measuring grain here. You know, let the seed both grow together, gather the wheat into the barn, and the tares gather them to be burned. And he said, moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. So he's saying not just in America, but their resemblance is going to be like this through all the earth, meaning in captivity. All right, wherever Israelites are at, this is the condition that they're going to be in. You're going to be able to tell who they are by the curses. Over England, Italy, wherever we're at, we were going to be on the bottom. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, all right, a measure. And the lead represents burden, all right, and weight. And this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah, and that's Israel. We were put in the midst of the ephah, in the midst of the measure with sin. All right, we were put in the midst of this place through slavery. All right, talent or weighty piece that you would use to keep something pressed down through the weight of it. And that's what we were. We were pressed down, oppressed. And he said, this is wickedness. He cast it into the midst of the ephah with us, man. See that? And he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. It sealed us up here. See that? The Lord said he has the keys of hell and death. And what the Lord closes, no man can open. All right? So he put a seal on it that we wouldn't be able to break free from this captivity. No man shall buy you. All right? And this is through all the earth. And this is the woman, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And he said, this is wickedness. So he put Esau here, these other heathen nations, all kind of idolatry, and the wicked of our nation, gonna go right after it. But the elect are gonna wake up to the truth. That's the place where the Lord starts his sifting at. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah. See, we were cast into slavery. And he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Then lifted I up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came out two women. See, it was one, but then there came out two. Remember I read that earlier? Judah and Israel were oppressed together. All right, so we came over individually. There was the northern tribes were here, most of the northern tribes, and then you had the southern tribe come over here. But then to come out, there's going to be two tribes coming out together. We're not going to be separated anymore. Going back to what was that? I think it was 931 BC. Jeroboam and Rehoboam, the split. So we ain't gonna be separated no more. Now we coming out together. All right, because we're all over here in America, as called the melting pot. You go into any neighborhood, you'll find Puerto Ricans, Native American, Colombians, whoever, Negroes, Haitians, and we're all over the world, of course. It's that melting pot, the ephah. All right. And it says, then lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came out two women, and the wind was in their wings. All right. The wind represents swiftness. All right. Us being moved quickly into slavery. And the wings represent those slave ships. All right. And Esau represent the wings as well, the eagles. All right. So the Lord said he buried us on eagle's wings and led us into the wilderness. So the Lord did the same thing when he led us into captivity. It was quick with Esau. All right. And it says, matter of fact, let me get this real quick. All right. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 47. And this is why we went into slavery. Okay, read Deuteronomy 28. Because thou servest not Yahweh thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies. See, we became what? Vassals vassals to Esau. We became servants to Esau, slaves. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, and Esau is the enemy. All right, our evil twin, which Yahweh shall send against thee. See, the Lord sent them against us. Ooh, ain't that something? That's power. Esau don't have no power. They tools just like us. The Lord said we're his battle axe and weapons of war. So when he sends Israelites at these nations in the day of judgment, there's no telling what we shall be. All right, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with, not to be reckoned with. All right. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in nakedness and thirst and in want of all things. Man, we ain't have nothing. All right, so we were stuck in their economy, and they had to do something with it, so they started taxing us. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, and they put us in cold slavery. Iron literally around our neck, keep us from running away. And today, they still have that spiritual yoke around our people, the mind of our people. And with this new world order system and economy that they're trying to set up, see, the first economy was set up on slavery. So now this new economy they're trying to set up is going to be based upon a different type of yoke, digital. Okay? So, and that's all by the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Yahweh shall bring against a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. See? A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Those damn Spanish, English speaking Edomites. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. See, they built this place, man. All right, they built it up after the mindset of the Roman Empire and the Greeks. All right, get the point. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed. And they did that. They burned up our land. They destroyed it. Which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he hath destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates. And they did that in 70 AD. They besieged us. All right, really in 66 AD, all up until about 73 AD. All right. They besieged us, the Romans. It was called the Jewish-Roman Wars. Until thy high and fenced walls come down. That happened. Wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which Yahweh thy power have given thee. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thy own body. All right, so that's the point. Okay, so the Lord brought a nation against us, swift as the eagle. And that was them Edomites. All right, so let's get back to the melting pot. It says, Zechariah 5 and 9. Then lifting I up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came out two women, right? Northern kingdom and southern kingdom of Israel, the two witnesses, spoken of in Revelations 11 as well, 11 and 8. All right, over to the end of that chapter, where the spirit of Yahweh entered into these dead people, spiritually speaking, and came to life. All right. So that's the two witnesses. And the wind was in their wings. See, we move with swiftness over here into slavery. For they had wings like the wings of a stork. All right, and the stork represents an unclean bird. You know, in the thing is Leviticus. The stork represents an unclean bird with the swiftness of an eagle, and how storks are known to travel and migrate and pop up in different lands, just like Esau. All right, so we basically had someone that led us into captivity, who was Esau. Okay, those that lead us into captivity shall go into captivity. They're the one that led us over here and brought us into slavery. And they lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven, meaning they carried us into slavery. What's that? On the waters and in the ships between the earth and heaven. So they carried us, lifted us up, brought us over here into slavery. All right, and they said, then said I to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? See that they carrying us, they carry that whole pot of sin, sinful people, Israelites and Edomites, and they carried that mindset over here to America and they built it here, that economic system. And he said unto me to build it an house in the land of Shinar. See that pot which was wicked Israelites, and he brought all of us over here because we were all asleep. And he said unto me to build it an house in the land of Shinar. It's going to be a wicked house, man. In that place called America today, the melting pot. In the land of Shinar. Shinar is a place in Babylon. And this was after ancient Babylon got destroyed. When Zechariah was on the scene, 520 BC, 2 years after Darius the Persian took office, 522. All right. So, what's that? So around that time, 520. My bad. Sorry, I had to cut this off real quick. Okay, so around that time, 520 BC, you go back about 20 more years, you have 540, and that was when Babylon fell, 540, 539. So it's not talking about Babylon. It's talking about parabolically, metaphorically, talking about a future Babylon where we were going to be in a current captivity all the way into the end. All right, and that place is what? And it shall be established. See, the Lord said He was going to allow it to be established. He was going to allow them to build a foundation. That's what they call the founding fathers, these Edomites that you have on the dollar today, with a damn Omega symbol around their head, calling themselves God. You know, and they say in God they trust. All this madness on the damn wicked ass dollar. Masonic symbols. So they built it in house in the land of Shinar, America, New Babylon today, the daughter of Babylon, and it shall be established. See, it got established. That was by the will of Yahweh, by Shem El-Shai. All right, how did America get established? Through the British, through England. All right, the IMF, the Federal Reserve. So it got established, and all the nations gave their riches unto it. Matter of fact, let's get this real quick. Revelation 17:4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color. All right, purple represents royalty, and scarlet represents red. So it was draped like, hey, you're gonna be the Edomite country. It ain't Africa, you know what I'm saying? And decked it with gold and precious stones and pearls. That's through the dollar and through resources and riches. Having a golden cup in her hand, all the philosophies of Esau, that they're gonna push out with the toxic paganism, adultery, the business, all of that, democracy. Having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication, meaning adultery and pollution. All right, toxicity is polluted. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now check this out. She got established. Revelation 17 and 16, or 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And that's the melting pot. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, all right, the EU, the European Union, basically the fully revised Roman Empire all the way up to America, these shall hate the whore. See, they're showing that hatred towards America now. And they're moving towards China and trying to establish a new world order, a new currency. And shall make her desolate. So they're making America desolate, stripping America of the riches that they gave to this place. Right? And shall eat her flesh. The mirth of the land is gone. And give and burn her with fire. For Yahweh hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. So the kingdom was given over to NATO and America, the spearhead for NATO, until the words of Yahweh, the prophecy of the Lord spoken shall be fulfilled, man. We in that time, the 10 toes going back to Daniel 2. All right. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Really, it should say that reigneth over the earth as a king. Now, the Lord put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and to give their kingdom unto basically America until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled in NATO. So through this, we know how America got established, okay? So it was built, Zechariah 5 and 11, and he said unto me, 10, then said I to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And Esau was bearing us and carrying us, all right? And he said unto me to build it in house. See, Esau built us a house over here called America. All right, the Lord used them to build it, to build us a house in the land of Shinar. And that house is the house of the thief. All right, that's why if you go up, it says he's going to send a chariot into the house of the thief. All right, and the thief is Esau. To build it a house in the land of Shinar, see, where he can stash the jewels, which are the Israelites. And it shall be established. See, it got established after it was built. And set there upon her own base. All right, meaning what? The same way you take a lamp and you stand, if it fell down, instead you stand it up and set it up on the base of it. And that's what America was. It was set up and built the foundation, and it was built all the way up until now it's going to be destroyed. All right, so I'm going to end it here, man, because this place is that melting pot, but our furnace of adversity, the iron furnace, right? The pot, the ephah, the measure of judgment against Israel and our sins. Ezekiel 22 and 18, I ended with this. Son of man, the house of Israel is to me become dross, which is like scum. All they are brass, all right, and tin and iron and lead, which are all alloys. Alloys are not solid metals. They will melt in a furnace that will burn gold. All right, that would purify gold, but it would melt these metals. All right, and lead, see? And in the midst of the furnace, they are even become lucky. All right, where was that? They are even become the dross of silver, like the scum. All right. Cause you usually put silver in there with gold, right? When you're melting it to pull out all the impurities. So it says, therefore, thus saith Yahweh the power, because ye are all become dross, because therefore, behold, therefore, I will gather you into the midst of Jerusalem. All right, so today we're being gathered around the world. As they, especially gathered here in America, as they gather silver and brass and iron and tin and lead into the midst of the furnace. See that? To blow the fire upon it. And that's what Esau about to do according to Revelation 6. The red horse, the black horse, and now the pale horse. They about to put one last hoorah on our people. All right? Hell and death. Death and hell followed. It says, so will I gather you in mine anger and in my fury, and I will leave you there. So see, when the Lord gathers us, our people, now he's gathering the elect, he's gathering the sheep on the right and the goats on the left, the wicked of our people, and Esau and these heathens. He says, what? And I will leave you there. So instead of delivering the wicked of our nations, he's going to leave them here. He said, and I will melt you. You know? Yea, I will gather you and blow upon you in the fire of my wrath, and ye shall be melted in the midst thereof. As silver is melted in the midst of the furnace, so shall ye be melted in the midst thereof. And ye shall know that I, Yahweh, have poured out my fury upon you. All right, in the midst of the damn melting pot.